Good afternoon. I am Nia Noel from Magic 95.5 and Radio 1 Columbus. Today, we are going to be talking about something that a lot of families are going through here in Central Ohio, a challenging time for parents, kids, and students. And we have administrators to teachers and cleaning and food service staff. COVID-19 keeps erasing the rules about how we deliver education to our children. For instance, many districts, including Columbus City Schools, initially hoped to provide a blend of options to families this fall. Now, however, the spike in COVID-19 cases has made many health experts and subsequently educators rethink their plans. CCS just announced that all grades would be online only for the first quarter for students. This decision has enormous impacts on families all over Central Ohio. What do parents do when they have to go to work with their children at home alone? On the other hand, what if their children really isn't in any way to send kids to school safely? How do we ensure kids really can learn virtually? Where will they get food when they depend on school breakfast and lunch for their basic needs? And sadly, we again see desperate impacts because of Black and Brown children. We don't even have the same resources and supports, even when school is in session. All of us need to understand the questions and the issues before us. And that's why we're here tonight. Perhaps, given how the pandemic has turned our world upside down, we're looking more at the XYZs of education and less of the ABCs. But fortunately, we have some great panelists with us for this discussion this evening. I'd like to introduce them to you. Principal Tamika Galvin from Valor Academy of Ohio. Thank you for being here with us tonight. And next we have Director Carol Haynes, Director of Kitty Academy. How are you doing tonight?
Hello.
There you are. Good to see you. And Portia Chisley, Director of School of Improvement of Charter Schools Specialist. Thank you for joining us again tonight as well.
Thank you.
So we're going to call this first segment Real or Virtual, because this is the world we're living in now. The issues school face. Let's start with a general question for Principal Galvin. First to you, give us some brief background about yourself and your school and tell us what issues you think are important to understand how schools deliver their services in the midst of COVID-19.
Yes, thank you, Nia, and thank you for the introduction as well. So again, I'm Principal Galvin, as Ms. Nia has stated. I am originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I am new to the Columbus area. My background go back maybe a couple of decades or so in education. And so it's something I'm really passionate about, and educating children is a lifelong journey for me. And most of us, probably all of us on this call at least, right? So I think that it's fair to say, to answer your question, Nia, some issues when we're thinking about how education will be delivered this fall. We want to think about the educational instruction that kids will receive. Is it going to be quality education? Will teachers, we don't want to overload teachers, right? But teachers are having a hard time as well. Again, juggling their families as well too. Tapping into the social and emotional learning for scholars is something that I'm really putting a lot of thought into, because again, they went through this in March. So we want to make sure we're thinking about that. We also have to consider what we consider now the COVID slide, which went into the summer slide. So when we think about achievement gaps for our African-American babies, if you will, we got to think that sometimes they have gaps and we're working hard to close them. Now we're getting greater gaps, and how do we close them? So that's something that I'm really thinking about. So when I'm thinking about curriculum, I'm thinking about intervention. I'm thinking about COVID, and I'm taking everything in, and it's a lot. It's not something that I take lightly. And so I just want people to just be very patient with us educators as we figure this out. But again, I just want to remind everyone to think about one of the biggest issues is how education will be delivered. I know for us in Valor, we're using a curriculum called Strong Mind, and our curriculum can go offline if it needs to go for our scholars. So that is a very fortunate piece that we own, but not everyone have that piece, that curriculum that's already built. And so we're not going to be so much Zooming with families if we should go remote. Right now, we're all day in school 5 days a week, and that's a choice that we made. But again, we have a detailed remote learning plan that we're going to stick to and implement every day. So that is our plan, and our kids have a very structured day, if you will, coming into Valley.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. Now, our next question from Ms. Portia Chisley, we know your work is serving over 13,000 students as Director of School Improvement for Charter School Specialists. What lessons or guidance do you offer to their parents as they sort through the issues that come with education during COVID-19? And what advice can you offer to parents who want to keep their kids on track? I know that's a big thing with a lot of parents. They're worried about their kids getting behind. What can you give them to keep them on track?
For sure, Neil. First, I want to say, Ms. Galvin, I started my teaching in St. Louis, Missouri, so that's where I had my first instructional experience. I love St. Louis. I visit there still. So good to see. So another educator who began in St. Louis. But Nia, great question. I would certainly say that the first thing I tell families is to make decisions that make the most sense for your family in particular. I think that specifically social media has made it so difficult for parents to feel confident in the decisions that they're making for their children. Some of us are choosing to send our students back to school full-time on site, right? And that, whether they have to wear masks and do social distancing, all those things. Some of us are making that choice. Other parents are deciding that maybe they're doing some sort of hybrid model, or they're doing 100% virtual if their school have those as options. So I would say, first of all, just giving yourself grace as parents in making those decisions and not feeling, like you have to make the best decision for your family.
Yes.
The second thing I would say in terms of keeping your students engaged is making sure, virtual instruction is going to be difficult, especially if you have a student who is in need of, special education services. If you have a student who's hearing impaired or vision impaired, or who might just be, have attention deficit disorder, sitting at a computer screen all day will be difficult for those students. So I just want to remind families that you still do have access to all of those special education resources that you previously had before COVID existed. So I always tell families to over-communicate with your school and with your teachers so that you can get the resources that you need. And then after that, I would finally just end with try to limit the screen time after they're home. So when school's over, find some other way to engage your students. I mean, you can have them planning dinner, doing math with, figuring out how, we have a budget of $100 this week. What do we need to eat this week? And, what coupons do we have available? And how can you work that into the budget? It's a learning opportunity and it's screen free. So those are just a couple of different, ways that I would engage parents and encourage them to continue engaging with school.
Yeah, I think it's a big disruption for everybody's life. We're so used to the way life was before March. So now we're having to get creative with how we're teaching our children instead of just sitting in front of the screen all the time. So that is definitely important. But also, you said, asking for help. If a parent, do they just go directly to their teacher? Who do you advise that they go to when they need help, especially with those special needs students?
Oh, great question. So I would start with the teacher for sure. So if you have questions about your students' special needs, whether that's, they're struggling with something, or if they're just exceeding goals and you want to maybe get them tested for gifted education, because it's not just about, deficiencies with our students. I would say start with the teacher. They, just request either, if you want to request to have them tested, or if they already have an IEP or 504 plan in place, schools will still be servicing all of those plans. It just may look a little different now that we're in a virtual world. So maybe instead of having those in-person meetings, you're on a Google Meet or you're on a Zoom call with your teacher and with those different service providers. So start with the teacher. If for some reason you can't get in contact with the teacher, then certainly reach out to those additional supports, school leaders, administrators, if they have access to some specific people that they're working with, speech therapists. So contact whoever you need to contact to make sure that your student has access to whatever services that he or she might need.
Yeah. And I say, as a parent, don't hesitate to ask, because, I think a lot of times we get so much in the groove of our everyday lives, we don't even want to pause to ask somebody for help or what to do. But, these are our babies we're talking about. And all this is so important. Like you said, it's not about the children that are just behind. Also, your child this may not be enough. They may need more. So parents, don't be afraid to ask for help. Definitely don't.
Exactly.
Okay, so Director Hayes, James, as a daycare owner and director, how have you been navigating helping parents and families? Please tell us about the process and what questions you specifically sought to answer.
We have been working really hard to help parents truly disrupt the learning loss that they have seen and experienced since COVID started. And so at Kitty Academy, we're not just a daycare. We are partnered with our school district in Reynoldsburg, and we service 53 local school buildings. So we take 7 buses pre-COVID, took 7 buses to 53 buildings each and every day. And so we have a lot of students out there that are in need of our services. We've had questions that have ran the gamut because we know our babies need us. And even as recent as today at 12:42, we received an email from ODJFS that let us know that children are allowed to be in our care and receive publicly funded child care dollars for the time that they're in our program. So what that means to parents, and we immediately created a Zoom link that parents can go to on Thursday, and we will walk them through the process of filling out the state form that will allow them to receive services. And so what we're doing is we're providing tutors, and for our kindergartners, especially making that transition from pre-K, and that's been a challenge. I watched a Reynoldsburg kindergartner today, 5-minute observation. You guys would have been amazed at how many times she left her seat, she asked questions, she had difficulty with the technology. If you didn't hear, Zoom crashed today. It went down nationwide. And so we were very much a part of that while we were helping children navigate the screens. And so we have let parents know when they ask that first question, will someone be available to help my student? Yes, absolutely. Some of our staff are degreed. Some of them have a license. We have gone out and purchased additional charging strips. To what Portia had mentioned, we've had a lot of parents call and ask, hey, my student has an IEP. I've got to go to work. They have these needs. We've asked families, share the IEP with us. We will do what we can to make those accommodations. As you get information from your district, from your student's teacher, we will coordinate with the teacher to make sure that we can align what's happening in our program with what really needs to happen related to that district's curriculum. And so we're really proud to be able to do that for our kids and for kids out there that have that need. I'm a parent of a hearing impaired child that is now 29. I still call her my child, but I tell people it's not even a hurdle. She got a master's degree from Columbia. And so I tell parents that we just have to ensure that we're able to provide the supports to assist students in the areas that they have that need. As far as meals go, so families have said, hey, will my child be able to receive food during the day? We provide a hot breakfast, hot lunch, afternoon snack, and even a hot dinner before they go home as well. And so we want to make sure that families know that those services are still available. We have tutors, we're considered a community partner. And so we're partnering with districts, charter schools, private schools to make sure that we're assisting in filling that gap as students really navigate this virtual environment. So we're here to help.
That's what the parents need, because, including for the children, this is all new for parents as well. Like a lot of them have done the Zoom calls and stuff like that. But, you talked about a kindergartner, They're not Zooming. They don't know about Zoom.
No, she was pretty interested in what I was doing. What are you doing?
Yes. Those little ones, they're used to like ABC Mouse and those types of things at Disney Channel. So all of this is new. And then also, parents having the patience to deal with their children, because parents are not only trying to help their children, they're trying to make sure, that they're doing their jobs as well. So I think it's amazing, the services that you guys are offering. Now, I know you just talked about this a little bit, but open to all the panelists, talk about this, the support that you may be offering to parents with the virtual school approach. And if so, what type of resources are providing? I know we've touched on this a little bit, but this is for everybody to touch on.
So one of the things that we're doing is really looking at the whole child and addressing their social emotional needs,
Yes.
Especially this first 30 days. We want to take that opportunity to where we're not saying, hey, what is the school looking at in terms of grades or assessments and those kinds of things. So we've built a tool and a document that will enhance the communication with mom or dad or grandma, whomever the caregiver is, when they go home, just so that they know what we're seeing, what we're hearing. If there were any conversations, say in an online classroom that may look like or sound like cyberbullying in any sort of way, we want to make sure that they know that we're communicating with them with what we're seeing, where we saw a gap or a need. Hey, they really struggled with long division today, or fractions. And so we've given them an at-home task to do, if you can help with that, and we'll keep an eye on it. And so just so we continue to have kind of an anecdotal running log of what's really going on in the time that they're with us.
Sure, I'll jump right in there too, Carol. So my organization, Charter School Specialists, we serve as a community school sponsor. So we are responsible for oversight, monitoring, and technical assistance for over 60 different community schools throughout the state. So the supports that we've been really providing them have come directly from the Ohio Department of Education. There are so many resources on the Ohio Department of Education website. If you go there and you just search remote learning, there is a link for parents and caregivers, and there's a link for educators. Everything down to, you can get into code.org and have your children at home learning how to code for free. One of those programs will teach kids how to make a dance party using an avatar, and they're doing all of that through coding. Another resource that I found for a lot of educators has been Harvard University is offering quite a few 100% free courses right now online. Some of those are just, 12-week, 7-week online courses for teachers to be able to get additional training to support students as they enter into this world of virtual learning. So one of the resources that I really, really push is Ohio Department of Education, their website, education.ohio.gov. Literally just search remote learning. And if you're a parent, hit parent. If you're an educator, there's resources for educators. There is a wealth of information on that website.
And Ms. Galvin, do you have anything to add?
So we're all day in school right now, but like I said, our curriculum, it does go virtual if we need to, because the kids are doing a hybrid model in school. So that's how our curriculum was already designed to work in school as well as at home. Our sister school is 100% online with the same curriculum. So that does work if they need to go home. Now, what I am doing is a parent orientation so that if we do need to go remote, parents do have a parent portal. They already can get those. They can come forth and get those questions answered ahead of time. And also just so that we can teach them how the curriculum works just in general. So our curriculum is in-house more so. So we're going to be there all day, every day. So we're not all virtual.
Well, hopefully we don't have to go there,
Right.
that we're, we've had a couple of days of downtrending with the numbers. So I'm hoping that the pattern and this too shall pass, and quickly, because I know our children are ready. They miss their friends, right? And I know. And the teachers miss them.
And I'll say this, Nia, I've gotten a chance to meet most of our scholars that have enrolled. I was fortunate enough to be in the building when the parents came up, and they are really excited about coming back. We did talk about things that they experienced during COVID. when it first happened in March, how they felt in the summer. We even did a program for social and emotional, not a program, but an event, during the summer to kind of help the community with social and emotional experiences that they were having. The kids really do miss their friends. And I'm hoping that one day we can all go back in. I do understand with the largest school district near us, I understand they have a lot more kids. And I think they're taking a good approach to how they're handling it. Our kids are small. We're still small right now. So, we just want everyone to be safe, but we also want learning to continue as well, because we want to close those gaps and we want our kids to continue moving forward when this is over with.
Yes, definitely.
Nia, one other thing regarding supports, I know it can be a stressor for parents if they've got, food insecurity or even insecurity with regards to materials at home. We gave away 1,000 backpacks, but we do have some left. So if folks are in need of some supplies at home, if they would give us a call or reach out to us via our Facebook page, we'll make sure that we're able to get those backpacks out to them. And then we also have resources for families if they are struggling with their food needs at home as well. And so we can point them in the right direction too. So
you might as well go ahead and drop that phone number, because I know somebody.
It is 614-866-1422. So 614-866-1422.
All right. Look, some parents, like I said earlier, you better get these resources. They are there. They are funded. So don't let the stuff go to waste. You want your children to make sure your children are taken care of. Definitely. Yeah. Okay, Ms. Portia, let me ask you, I am sure you've had your help with your schools navigating these interesting times. Can you tell us about what advice you've offered to the school administrators and why you chose that specific advice?
Oh, for sure. So I'll say the first thing when this started, the very first thing we were communicating to our schools was to keep the lines of communication open between the school and families. There have been some schools where I've tried calling and nobody answers the phone. Wow. And it's hard to get people over email. And I understand, right? I know we are all inundated with just craziness. We're getting hundreds of emails each day and phone calls. But you don't want to create that extra panic for your families when they're trying to either enroll or ask questions about your remote learning plan, whether you're going back full time, you're going back hybrid. You want to make sure you keep those lines of communication open. So that's the first piece of advice we give. The second piece of advice that I give our school administrators is usually if you're choosing to go virtual and you're going to be working on a specific platform, there's quite a few schools right now using Google Classroom. Figure out a way to provide your families with some sort of training on that tool, because I've heard tons of people just be confused as parents with I don't know how to do, Google Classroom, or I'm not really sure how to log on to Zoom. Providing just even a simple step guide or a 2-minute quick video really helps alleviate that stress for families. So anything that you can do as a school district or a school building to help provide that information, I definitely say go for it. And then just continuing to spit out those resources. Carol, it sounds like at Kitty Academy, you guys are doing a great job with that. But I had a really good question come up from a friend group this past weekend, and they were saying, well, what happens when, if a family gets their utilities cut off? And even though the child has access to, a Chromebook, now they can't use it because it's not charged and they don't have, lights on or electricity. So there are resources in the city. I know that, the city of Columbus is doing a lot to help families with those types of assistance. So just continuing to just give that information to families so that we can all just get through such a difficult time together.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And let me see, I can't remember where we left off. Oh, yes, Director Haynes. What advice do you offer for parents about how to keep their kids healthy and active during this time? I know that's really important as we navigate these times.
Mm-hmm. And that's very important for me. I oftentimes get that question because I am a nurse, I say by training and background. So one of the things that we make sure we have done, I think our team has done a fabulous job in terms of educating not only our staff and teachers and our children, but our families. And so everything you've heard from social distancing to hand washing, social distancing is difficult in our environment. And so we give general reminders. Our school agers are wearing face masks. We get that question from families as well. For students that are unable to wear a face mask, we are asking parents for documentation. We're sanitizing our playground. Kids got to go outside.
Yes.
We let kids be kids, but we do what we need to do as adults. And so we're sanitizing our playground between groups. We're making sure that if we see students touching their face or their nose, that we're having them wash their hands, and just actively being engaged and doing the things that we know are going to keep folks healthy and safe. We've got a pretty rigid exclusion policy right now. And so if folks are exhibiting what would be considered COVID symptoms, and believe me, I know people still get what I call regular sick, but we're just hyper vigilant. So, someone may say, my child has an ear infection, that's why they have a fever, but they are still excluded from our academy for an extended period of time. And so we've been very fortunate in that none of our kids, and we have programs that operated the entire time during the pandemic, and I probably should knock on wood all over my desk right now, in Hilliard, downtown, on Tussing, in Reynoldsburg on Main Street, and none of my kids have been sick with COVID. And so we are very proud of that because our team has been able to keep kids safe. And so we also have our team just kind of monitor their symptoms. And so if you were to kind of hang out outside our building, we are taking temperatures of students. We're asking questions. Students are using hand sanitizer before they enter the building, and our staff and team are doing the same thing. Parents and families are not allowed into our facility during the school day. This eliminates us having the need to close our program because of an adult that may have only been in the building for 5 or 10 minutes, but may have also had access to 200 children. So we are very vigilant about that, but we also have improved our communication mode with our families to make sure that they have the information that they need, even though they're not able to access the facility. So health and safety with each provider across the city is very, very important. And so we even are transporting students. We've decreased the number of students that are on our bus. We offer transportation for our preschool students from home to Kitty Academy and from Kitty Academy to home. And so for our state-supported ODE pre-K program, our city program, and our Head Start program, we've got transportation. They are sanitizing the bus seats between both routes. They are also skipping seats as well. Students are using sanitizer as they board the bus, and as can be tolerated, students are wearing masks on the bus. So we are doing everything that the guidance has indicated that we should be doing, and we'll continue to do that as well. So we feel pretty good about what's happening.
And I feel like you mentioned some really interesting things, but one thing that stuck out in my head is you were talking about sanitizing, hand washing, and not touching your face. This was like, most Americans, I hope, were already washing your hands, but it's next level now, right? Mm-hmm. And we have all these new habits. Like one of the hardest things for me was not touching my face. I did not realize how much I touch my face until the CDC was like, don't touch your face. And I was like, I'm going to die because I keep touching my face.
Yeah, it's natural.
It's crazy, right? But I think it's amazing that, we are forming these new healthy habits that I not only think that can stay during COVID, but go on after, because, COVID isn't going to be the only infectious disease that's in this world, but this will, help our children to stay healthier. So many parents talk about kids bringing little bugs and stuff to school. Mm-hmm. So I really commend your school and all the facilities for going the extra mile to make these parents feel comfortable, but also us parents and children learning these extra habits, healthy habits, to make sure that they all work together in perfect harmony.
It's even to the point now where the kids are like, wash your hands, you touched your face.
That's great. See, that's what I'm talking about, learning these new healthy habits and keeping them up, because none of this is bad that we're doing now. Probably should have been doing it beforehand, but you pivot when you need to pivot. So the world, yes. So Principal Galvin, what can parents do to make themselves and their children feel safe to return to the classroom? We kind of touched on it just now, but give us some tips for that.
So thank you, Ms. Haynes. You kind of gave an intro to what they can do. I agree. Have those conversations, not just at school, but at home. Telling your kids why it's important to wash hands and practice that. Don't just send them to school and say, wash your hands. It should be at least a 20-second hand washing routine. So teach them a song. I don't know, maybe if they're younger, they can do the alphabet song, or if they like their rap, whatever it is they like, 20 seconds, teach them that. Tell them hand sanitize, good hygiene, practice safe space away from other people. And we'll help them, of course, as educators in our role. But at the same time, if parents can begin to have those conversations, maybe have a talk with their kids about what do you do if you don't feel well? What does that look like? Because at our school, when they come, they're all day, of course. We take temperatures in the morning when they come in. Again, we have them hand sanitized down, but that's not enough. We also need the kids to be accountable and to help us out. We have middle grade. So those are not babies. Those are big kids that can communicate. I don't feel good. I feel warm. At least I know, and I know they do. They're 11 to 14 typically. So they can say, I feel a little warm, or my stomach hurt. They can kind of start having those conversations. So what parents can do is just have those conversations and let the kids know, if you don't feel well, find an adult and just tell them, and it's okay if you don't feel well. If you need to be at home, and we as educators need to do our part to ensure parents that if a kid doesn't feel well, it's okay for them to stay home, and we'll do our part to make sure that they continue that same learning at home as they will in school. And we need to not put like a stigmatism on it. Oh, you don't feel well, you're sick, you got to go have a COVID test. We don't want to shame anybody for saying that they don't feel well, because then I think what'll happen is kids won't say that they don't feel well, right? So we want to make sure parents know that we support them in supporting their children, and just have those conversations, and we'll support both parent and child, or children.
Miss Galvin, that's so good. I will point out, just as the whole attendance piece is so important. There's been initiative after initiative just on getting kids to school, right? Yeah. But we're in a crisis right now. We're in a pandemic. So it's more important to make sure that your child is healthy and safe than to physically be sending them to school right now. Right. And then from a parent perspective, I'll just throw this out here because it's been an incredible eye-opener for me to just kind of watch how this plays out with students going back to school, whether it's remote or in person. My daughter started kindergarten this year, and her school is 5 days a week in person. And so I was really freaking out about, having her have a mask on at school. And children are so resilient. She puts on her mask every day. I mean, I have to remind her when she gets in the car for pickup that you can take your mask off now. You're safe. You're in a safe space. You can take your mask off. And she's just learned that, if she's going somewhere in public, she puts the mask on. If she's home and she's safe, she can take the mask off. So I just want us as parents to remember that children are resilient. They are learning from us, and what we do matters at this time. So just making sure that we're practicing all of those safe habits. We're washing our hands quite a bit. We're wearing our mask when we're out in public. And our children, they will repeat what we're doing, and they're resilient. They can wear those masks at school. And surprisingly, even for a 5-year-old, a new 5-year-old, it has not been a problem. So that has been a blessing to me from a parent perspective, to see that this is normal. She goes to school with her mask on. It's not a big deal.
And Portia, thank you for sharing that. I just want to say kids are very resilient, and they also like to take the adult role sometimes. So for us, we have routines and procedures in place of when we have those hand washing segments in our school. So kids can tell the teacher, it's time for us to go wash our hands, or we have no time. And so we give them that accountability too, and we make it a routine for everyone. So just allow the kids to take part of that, and don't make it feel like such a heavy load for them, right? We do want them to learn, but we also want them to be safe. So include them in it, and don't shun them out of the process. Let them say, isn't it time for us to go wash our hands, or help them to help each other. We're doing circles in our school, so morning and afternoon. With the circles, and you guys were practicing safe space, because I know a circle is kind of closed in, but we're practicing. So no, we're doing circles, and the circles just help kids get that communication and build those bonds. And so with that said, this is a time for kids to say, Thank you for reminding me to wash my hands, or thank you for reminding me. So we want to practice teaching kids how to communicate that and just make that a part of what we're doing right now, because the pandemic isn't going anywhere yet. So we just want to make sure kids are included.
Yeah. So, Ms. Portia, I have a question for you. Since you have a child that just started school in first year, what do you do? And parents, if you're watching, you can ask. Wow, I don't know if you guys are getting a thunderstorm. You probably heard that. It's really loud. But you guys can leave comments with questions as well. But how did you make yourself feel comfortable? It sounds like your daughter pivoted very well and adjusted, but you as a parent, how did you make yourself feel comfortable releasing your child to go to school? Because I know some parents are still thinking about it, like, you know, because they still have a little bit of time. Like, do I want to send them, or am I keeping them? How did you get to that conclusion to feel comfortable?
That is a great question. And so it kind of goes back to my daughter's school. They did a phenomenal job keeping parents engaged over the summer, taking our questions and concerns, and then making sure that on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, we were given updates. So I work in education, so I'm kind of one of those parents that might be a little bit difficult to please at times, but they were doing everything. You know, I would be on the webinars with the governor and him giving those updates. And then soon after, I would receive an email from my child's school saying, this is what the governor has said. This is what we're putting in place. They even went as far as to do a YouTube video where they showed us what social distancing looked like in their buildings. They showed us, you know, they put in some special water fountains with a filtration system. The teachers actually purchased the water bottles, which I'm not encouraging that, teachers. Like, I know you should not be spending any extra money. But just, it was small things for me. But mostly that communication that made me feel like, okay, they know, one, they have the information. They've been listening to Ohio's Restart Guide, listening to the governor, and listening to their county, you know, health department. And then two, my daughter's social emotional needs came into place after that. So she's young. She loves to play. She loves her friends. She's very active and enjoys social interaction. So for me, it was important to not only make sure she had access to the educational and learning opportunities that she needed this first year of school, but also that she learned how to be a part of a group, and she got to have that social interaction that honestly, like myself and my husband, we can't provide that to her.
Yes.
And I think it's hard for parents. I think that parents have, you know, for a lot of parents who are able to work from home, I think sometimes it's this idea that they're working from home, but they're not doing anything. Parents working from home are working. So I feel for people who are having to work remotely and then still having to be a full-time teacher at the same time. That's two jobs that you're managing.
Yeah.
So when it came to making that decision, it really was the school and how they communicated, understanding what I felt like my daughter needed, and then knowing that I don't have the capacity to give her all of that. So I am praying for a healthy, safe school year where she can physically be present and we can all feel like, you know, we're getting what we need.
Yeah, those are great tips. You know, I just wanted you to share some of that because I know that there are parents having those same struggles. And I think hearing that from you, you know, since you just sent your child into kindergarten, it is a great testament. So thank you for sharing that. Now, we have all been hearing a lot about LECs, or Learning Extension Centers. Does anyone have any information on details on what those are and how exactly they work?
I have a little bit of information related to that. I think, as we mentioned, having folks that are having some issues with the internet. An LEC is available to Columbus City School students on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I think they've done a great job of basically zoning the city and making sure that there are LECs available in each of those regions per se. Actually, they're not calling them zones, regions. And so basically, you know, students are going to have access to the internet. They're going to have access to tutors. They're going to have access to meals as well. And so I think and this is all at no cost. And so this is a situation where they don't actually need publicly funded childcare to attend. And it's for students anywhere from kindergarten through 12th grade. You know, whereas if you go to your local childcare provider, you know, you may have students that get cut off at the age of 13. And so I think that, and so community partners have stepped up and have built centers in their facilities. There is currently a wait list because they are trying to access additional dollars to add additional seats, but also want to see what the actual capacity is and what the interest level is. I think and look at what attendance is over time as well. And so I think it's a great thing that's happening in our city to see everyone really pull together and try to provide each child equity. You know, that's really what we're doing with LECs and as, you know, community partners and childcare providers accepting school agers is really just trying to level the playing field for them to provide them all of the resources and supports that they need to be successful. And these LECs are doing that, and they're doing it in every region of the city, making sure that we can reach out to every child. You know, each one of our babies has a need, and we need to figure out what that is, and we need to partner to do it and make sure that they're moving forward.
Anybody else have any input on LECs? No? Okay, you know I have some more questions. So Director Hayes, when it comes to mindfulness yoga, how can these strategies be helpful for our students?
Yes, and I think that Principal Galvin and Portia both have even kind of alluded to it. I myself, social emotionally, making sure that we're connecting with our students. And so mindfulness is, we do kind of like brain breaks. And so we're using yoga and mindfulness and walking students through those activities and exercises. And then we're going to be training our older students, our middle school students, to work closer with our kindergarten and first grade students to walk them through those exercises as well. And so we'll be training them from a leadership perspective to do that. But right now, our teachers are utilizing that. One of the resources that actually parents can use at home is a resource called Go Noodle. So GONOODLE.com. There's great, I see you laughing, Principal Galvin. There's great resources there. If you're like, hey, I want to do yoga at home with my kid. I'm not doing a handstand, but I can work on everything else. But so we're really pushing so that our students get those breaks that they need, but that we're also really focused on their mental health too. And so, you know, not always is it the student that's fidgeting and moving around. You know, sometimes it's the child that's exhibiting behaviors that, you know, where they're picking on others or making kind of, you know, comments. And so, you know, it's that break or that time away to take that deep breath and that cleansing breath and really walk them through what that is. You know, I personally believe that we are not truly going to know the mental health effects of COVID-19 for some time to come. But if we can start to address what we believe the impact of these stressors can be on children, I think that we may be able to help dissipate some of the effects that we'll see later on down the road. And so, and not only just for kids, you know, if they can take some of these relaxation techniques home to mom or dad or grandma and do that with them, you know, we may be able to have some impact on some of those other social determinants of health as well. And so that's really what our goal is when we're addressing mental health and mindfulness.
And you know, before you pass that by, let me just say this, because Ms. Haynes is we're just all kind of just bouncing off of each other, you guys. Touching base with parents is very, very important. Even though our kids are in school, some kids are, my daughter's hybrid and some kids are fully remote. It's so important to touch base with the parent, because if that's who the kid is with most of the time, and that parent is starting to exhibit these emotions and they're not themselves, kids pick up on that. Just like when they come to school and they pick up on how we feel. So for me, what's important at my campus is that we are a true community and we are reaching out to parents, making sure our parents are good. You know, what does that look like? Having a conversation with the parents. Are you okay? What can we do for you? Do you need any services that we can look into for you? it takes a community to make sure that we're going to get through this. And I know, Ms. Haynes, you've kind of said it all, and I appreciate that. You just kind of was hitting on it. I was like, yes, if I could have put on a cheerleading outfit for you, you was hitting it. We got to make sure we're connecting with our parents, because all too often we have our doors open for our babies, and we forget that they got to go back home to the family that they love and the family that loves them. So if we can just make sure we're connecting with parents and, you know, whomever that is, parent, mother, father, aunt, whomever the child is with, just touch base. How are you doing? That's a simple question. Yeah. What can we do for you? Like you said, they may need food. They may, with our kids, even though they come every day, it doesn't mean that they're not experiencing difficulties during this time, or that they don't have other siblings at home. So just having those conversations is going to be very important during this pandemic.
I agree with that, Ms. Galvin.
Because there's so many things, like our environments are different. Our world has been disrupted. So there are things that would normally not stress you out are stressing people out these days. So just like how you were talking about exploring yoga and meditation and stuff, those are great things that parents can do with their children that not only benefit their children, but benefit themselves in the entire household.
Yeah, I think that's so good, Nia. I want to make sure too that, you know, we're talking about de-stressing for students and for parents, for children and for parents. I want to make sure that educators understand that they need to find ways to de-stress too, because just as much as this pandemic is impacting children and families, it's also impacting educators. So I know one thing that Charter School Specialist is doing is providing training for teachers to just teach them some mechanisms for how to de-stress. And then another thing I wanted to mention was just that I know we've kind of heard about the governor kind of talking about reporting, child abuse reporting, and all those things kind of declining during this pandemic. But we know there are households where, you know, unfortunate things are happening. So I think it's incredibly important that schools stay connected to families, and families understand that if you are in the midst of a crisis and you just need, you know, space, or you need help, you need to seek counseling, there are resources available to you. One of those is the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. They have a crisis text line. You can text the number 4HOPE to 741, and you'll be connected with a trained counselor within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
Give me the number again, please.
You're going to text the number 4 and the word HOPE to 741, and you'll be connected with a licensed trained counselor within 5 minutes. So whatever we can do just to keep our mental capacity strong and to de-stress as adults, but also make sure that we're ensuring the health and safety of our children is so incredibly important. So use the resources that you need. Don't ever feel embarrassed to reach out, embarrassed to text, you know, if you need that additional support. Because we certainly want to make sure that our children and our families and all of our students are staying safe, not just, you know, mentally, but physically during this time as well.
Yes.
And I would say not to get upset as caregivers if we as providers make the referral for them because we're seeing something, but maybe they weren't able to take that step. It's nothing punitive. It is because we care, and it's out of love that we're reaching out for them and for their children, to make sure that they're able to access those resources too, because maybe they just could not pick up the phone. And down the road, you know, we've had families come and thank us for making that call for them that they weren't able to make.
And, you know, I think our community is starting to get over this speed hump. I'm going to call it a speed hump about mental health being bad or weak. It's not. This is so important in the world that we're living in right now, because like I said, all these stressors are new. Everybody's in a whole new world, new Zoom, new working remotely, kids not being around their friends. This is stressful. So don't be scared or upset to say that you need help from the brain. You know, the brain's important. It's okay to ask for help for mental health. It's okay to ask for help with lunch or rides to school, whatever you need. Mental health is okay, and it's not bad or weak in the African American community and for everyone. I just want to
For sure. And it's so incredibly important that as adults, we model that for our children. Last night I was putting my daughter and my son, getting them ready for bed. My husband was out, so it was just me with the two of them. And I gave my son a bath. And when I came back into the room about to get her bath ready, she had my son in her lap and she was reading him a nighttime story. Oh. And obviously, she just started kindergarten, so she doesn't have all she can't read the words on the page, but she can read the pictures and she can see from the pictures what the story was about. Teaching them just that compassion and empathy and how to be a helper at home will go so far. I mean, that just took such a burden off of me, especially as an educator. We know we're supposed to be reading to our children as much as possible, extra 15 minutes a night gets them far, but I just did not have it in me last night. And for my daughter to see that and to know that that was an area where she can help just made me, it just made my heart warm to be able to see that our children, just their capacity and their empathy and their resilience during this time is so incredible. So get your children involved in that. Have them help at home. Have them figure out what we're having for dinner tonight. And even if it's going to be eggs and there's so many ways that we can kind of start alleviating that pressure off of us during this time.
We were talking amongst ourselves, these are healthy habits that our children and us adults are learning that are going to go on for our entire lifetime. And great things to carry on. And, these healthy hand washing habits and the mental health and bedtime stories that we're like, all this is going to go on for generations, and it's going to do nothing but be good for our families and generations to come. But if anybody have any closing tips or words, or maybe something that you thought you forgot real quick or wanted to say, because we're almost done.
I do. Yeah, I just want to say, I do wish everyone a prosperous and safe school year. I just want to remind everyone to take care of self. I know as women, I just want to speak to the women real quick. We are always told, you're so strong, you can handle this, you can do not be strong. You don't have to be strong. If you need help, like Nia said, reach out. I think Portia said it, Carol said it. I think we've all kind of touched on it. It's okay. So I just want to say, enjoy this school year. It's not going to be forever that we're going through this, and we're going to come out knowing new skills and new ways to help and support our children. So welcome to the school year, and I wish everyone a wonderful school year.
Perfect.
I think the one thing I haven't said, and I don't think we did a good job of saying it, is that we've got to make sure that we make this time fun for kids. And so creating their badges, their honor, their point system, earning pizza, whatever it is, making this learning time fun. And if women, ladies, caregivers, dads are getting stressful, it's too much at home, you just need a day, Kitty Academy can help you. We've got transportation available. We're preparing kids for kindergarten, so we've got the state-supported pre-K programs. Reach out to us if you don't have transportation. We do pick up at home. And so we're here to help. If families need help with food, if you think about it, if you feed a family of 5 at Kitty Academy, breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner, those dollars that they do have can stretch to the weekend and get them through that month. And so we're available to do that in and amongst that additional support with tutoring and academics, and just giving them that opportunity to kind of have fun and let go. So we're here to do that. We are your community partner and add that support, but let's make it fun for kids and let's help keep them safe too.
Awesome. Do you have any exiting words?
Yeah, I would just say the last thing that I'm thinking about is just don't waste this crisis. Right? I think a lot of times we've been so focused on getting back to normal that we forgot that, wait a minute, there's some things that were normal that we don't need to do anymore, right? Not every kid needs to be in a classroom for 7 hours a day, every single day. A lot of children are actually thriving in this virtual or hybrid model. So maybe education will never look the same again. And maybe that's a good thing. So I would just say, don't waste this crisis. Figure out, whether you're an educator or a parent, what are those little nuggets that you're learning during this time that you want to continue on? Maybe that means that, school, if you're a school and you've done some Google Classrooms and it's working really well for your students, that maybe all homework becomes on Google Classroom now. There are some things that I don't think need to go back to normal. So use this as an opportunity to really find those items or those tasks or whatever you're doing that is really benefiting students and families, and continue that on even when the coronavirus pandemic is over.
Yes,
Recreate, reimagine. I like that portion.
Yes, that's some great words. Ladies, thank you so much. This has been a great hour with you all. Great information. Parents, if you didn't see this whole thing, they are going to be on our websites. You can watch this video on social media, on our social media pages or on our websites. So get a pen and paper, watch it again, write down all those numbers and text and websites that we gave, and use these resources. They are available for you. They are funded. These people are waiting to help you, and they care about your kids and they care about you. So use the resources that are here right in our own backyard. Now, next week, we will be back with more resources because there's so many out there. I do understand that they're talking about securing food for your family needs, preschool, and all kinds of things next week. In the meantime, everybody stay safe, sanitize, wash your hands, don't. All right. New habits, new healthy habits. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.